Business is now global, so shouldn't your financial consultants also provide worldwide expertise? Today, we talk about how Rooled is partnering with Finerva in London to help companies grow across borders. Welcome back to another edition of The Angel Nest, where real angel investors and entrepreneurs partner to build great companies. I'm David Hemingway. I'm a 5-time founder and now an active angel investor. And this is another of our continuing series of partnership podcasts with Johnnie Walker of Rooled, outsourced CFO accounting and consulting services. Rooled are the startup finance experts, and this group of programs is examining the state of the startup world, including the importance of financial reporting and how Rooled has helped their clients to achieve their goals and financial success. Welcome back, Johnny. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, David. Great to be here again.
We're also joined today by Adam Brody of Finerva and Richard Little, a leading angel investor in the UK and chairman of OneID, a digital identity platform that exclusively uses outsourced accounting and CFO services. And they're one of the UK's most prominent up-and-coming financial companies. Welcome, gentlemen. Thanks for joining us today on the Angel Nest.
Thank you, David. Hi, Johnny. Pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
And the same from me.
Johnny, how did you and Adam start collaborating? And what kind of opportunities have developed as a result?
So I think originally Adam and I connected when there was a client of his, Grippable, that was expanding to the United States. And so they were looking for some finance and accounting support in the country here. So we made contact and we started working with that client. It was great to connect with Adam because the business models of Finerva and Rooled are so similar in this focus on outsourced accounting for venture-backed enterprises. So in doing that work with that initial client, it was an opportunity for Adam and I to get to know each other. So we've met in London, and really it's been an opportunity for him to see the benefit that they could get for their clients and having companies coming over here to the States. And for us, it's been about that reconnect back into the UK and seeing and helping companies that really expand. So it's been a wonderful opportunity, and I'm looking forward to a lot more partnership from here.
So Adam and Richard, it sounds like you two have worked out a formula for mutual success. Tell us how it happened.
So originally I met the founder of OneID, Rob Kotlarts, I think probably 4 or 5 years ago. And we did a small project for the company. And more recently they got back in touch and they were looking for some CFO support, and they were happy to outsource it. And I met the CEO, I met Richard and a couple of other members of the team. Outlined how we worked, and I think the chemistry felt good. And OneID for us matches up with the ambitions and the values of the clients that we look for. We want to work with companies that are aiming big, and they are typically have equity investors, high net worth angel investors, some venture capitalists as well.
So, Richard, for angels, the bar is always high in terms of wanting to know what the numbers are and that they can be trusted. So your endorsement says a lot indeed about this whole concept of outsourced accounting.
Yes, and let me give the other side of the background to this. We've ended up, obviously we didn't know where we were when we started, we ended up as one of the larger angel-backed businesses in the UK. Over the last 4 years, we've attracted nearly 200 angel investors, and we've raised more than £10 million, which is an unusual, certainly for the UK market, is an unusual amount to raise from individual angel investors. We had a CFO among our founder group, but a year into the project, he needed to retire on sort of health, and actually he had an exit from another company that helped him do that. And he introduced me to Adam, who he'd been using, I think, just for very relatively minor outsourced services, because Adam had a team under him. And we saw the way forward for Adam to basically take over the entire function. And now he's managing our payables, our receivables, and has taken over the not inconsiderable burden of all of the angel interactions that we need in almost constant fundraising that we've been doing.
So is this a better and more efficient solution to the accounting needs for some of your startups?
Well, the issue with startups is that their accounting needs are quite extreme, but also extraordinarily volatile. We're pitching angels with our story, and some of them just sign. They see a headline and like it. A lot of them really do dig deep, and managing that effectively. If you're dealing with a VC putting in 5 million, you've got time to spare to give him the attention he needs. But angel investors who are putting in 50 or 100,000 pounds, your interactions with them can be just as critical, but you can't afford to spend a lot of time on it. So we occasionally need very senior support from someone who can characterize a position and convey it with authority. Other times, we just suddenly get a flood of invoices at the end of a quarter or to pay or to chase. And we end up with relatively low risk activities that are needed. Difficult to get that from the same man in the same month or the same woman in the same month in a full-time role. So we found that by basically sharing Adam and his team with a few other startups like us, we get access to a much wider range of services before we can afford to put a sort of 5 or 6 man team in place.
I was just going to comment, actually, I think, Richard, that's probably the most succinct and best description of the nature of accounting and startups I've heard. The two words of extreme and then volatile. And I think in extreme, you've got this need for startups to be very compliant because they're reporting against investor obligations, and there's a lot of focus on the accuracy of the accounting, and volatile at the same time because the month to month just changes rapidly. And that's I think it's a fantastic way to characterize the market that we target.
And Johnnie and Adam, I'd love to hear the differences between the U.S. market and the UK market. Is one side adopting outsourced accounting faster than the other, and why do you think that is?
I'll kick off, but I'll hand over to Adam pretty quickly. I think in the US, I'd call it a fairly established trend. I think the vast majority of startups are actually outsourcing. Who and what they outsource to, I think, does vary. And so you've got a relatively well-established industry of companies that do this outsourcing, and it really is a question of who is doing the most reliable job, the most accurate job, etc. So I think it is quite well established here. But Adam, I'd love to, being from Scotland myself, I think hearing the UK view here is really of great interest.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I guess if the UK was ahead of the US, we'd still have Johnny this side of the pond. But no, I think, look, the US is a far bigger market, of course, than the UK. Probably in broad generalization, but has got a bigger innovation economy and venture capital backed economy. So I think, yes, I think there is, in terms of services, that the what you call fractional CFO or outsourced CFO, it is bigger and it's picked up quicker in the US. We're one of a small handful of practices that have taken this approach, and as Richard articulated, that's because we focus on a particular audience, and that's the angel and venture capital backed businesses, and they have highly sophisticated professional investors very, very early on in the development of the company, and that's so that the needs are more complex, and they can get the senior and strategic support at a fraction of the cost of hiring someone full time who they don't need, to be, I think, perfectly honest.
Just going to say, it sounds like superior service, a less costly model, and total flexibility. Richard, someday will all startups use outsourced accounting services?
Some startups have a CPA, a qualified accountant, in their founding group, and that's really good. They're going to start off with the disciplines, and that's how OneID started, with a CPA in the founding group. For those that don't, they do need to take this function seriously, and it used to be enough just to have the sales guy and the tech guy in their garage, so to speak. It's not anymore, and certainly in the UK, I don't know if in the stateside, but in the UK, there are also very specific tax arrangements, both for investors and for early stage tech companies of credits from their income taxes and things like that. So there are some special disciplines that cost a lot when you go to the big accounting practices to get their expertise, because they built their businesses supplying relatively high cost services to relatively large companies with a view to public audit and things like that. It's different in the world of startup, and Adam's got that sort of in his DNA. He's running a small company, he understands the concerns, and he's got the disciplines that are needed. So unless you're lucky enough to have a CPA in your founding group, I do think you ought to look very seriously at this kind of supplier. Indeed, I have done since. It's worth mentioning. In 2 companies since I've got to know Adam, I found occasion not to go the full way that OneID has gone, but I've got 2 other companies who have dipped in and might well take further advantage of Adam's services as they develop.
So it works in all different situations and at all different kinds of levels.
I think particularly in that stage before, you don't want a fully qualified chief financial officer unless he's got some staff to administer. You don't want him to be sticking the invoices into the envelopes, metaphorically speaking. I know we all do it online now. So there comes a stage when you do. And at that stage, we're some way from it at OneID. But at that stage, I imagine Adam will lose a client once he's getting an audit done, once he starts thinking about a listing and that sort of thing. But in that period prior to that, I think there's a very serious role that's played by companies like Finerva. Because I was sort of introduced directly, I've never scoured the market. Adam mentioned there's others in the field. We've never sought to look at them because he's hit the ground running, and we're doing pretty well with the services we're consuming.
Quite an endorsement.
I don't know about you, Johnny, but I think Richard mentions if the company goes for IPO or gets to I don't know, Series H or whatever, not OneID, but a client. But I see that as success if they've hired internally full-time team. We've helped them get from startup to established scale-up. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, totally, Adam. It is a question of that company getting to that point of scale and hiring in is a success point. And we look at it in our business that we have to, in a way, stuff the front end, which is the smaller business side, because all of our clients are going to scale. And so we've got to find companies early. We've got to find them at the point where we can really establish the right accounting at a point before. Frankly, they can often make a mess of things. And so you want to get there in lean and quick and easy at the start and then scale with them. And then it becomes a question of having built the right relationships and the business partnerships, frankly, at the point that the client, in a way, churns. You continue on that relationship side. And the successful companies often throw up many other founders that happen as a result. And the degree to which we get next clients from the founders of the companies that were successful as before, that's just it's testament to the quality of the services. So I think that is a success case for definite. I think you're totally right, Adam.
All right, Johnnie Walker from Rooled, Richard Little, and Adam Brody from Finerva, thank you very much for joining us today to talk about how startups are revolutionizing finance and accounting. Appreciate it.
Thank you, David. Good to meet you.
Pleasure, David.
Thank you very much, both.
You can find contact information for our guest today at our website, theangelnest.com, where you can also reach me. If you know of a company or an exciting opportunity we should talk about, I'd love to hear from you. My email is david@theangelnest.com. I'm David Hemingway. We produce The Angel Nest with help from David Newhoff at the beautiful Art Deco Film Center building just west of Times Square in New York. Thanks for listening, and here's hoping my fellow angels and the founders they support find their next great venture. So long until next time.